Anni Dewani was a lovely 28-year-old woman from Sweden who wed businessman Shrien Dewani in an elaborate Indian ceremony in October 2010. Their wealthy wedding kick-started a luxurious honeymoon trip to South Africa, where their marital bliss would end in unthinkable tragedy just 2 weeks later. After getting married in a grand Indian wedding, Shrien Dewani and his new bride Anni headed to South Africa for their honeymoon. Anni was especially excited for this lavish post-wedding trip, as going on a romantic safari in Africa had long been one of her lifelong dreams and travel goals. The couple wanted to celebrate their marriage by exploring the beauty and wildlife of South Africa, not realizing the trip would end in Anni's murder. On November 13, 2010, just a few days into their luxurious honeymoon in South Africa, Anni and Shrien Dewani decided to spend a day exploring Cape Town. They hired a local taxi driver named Zola Tongo to drive them around the city and show them the sights. At this point, the couple were still happily enjoying their honeymoon, unaware of the tragic events that would unfold that very night, during what seemed like a routine taxi ride through Cape Town. Their lives were about to change forever. According to the stories told, as the taxi was driving through Gugulethu, a local township area, 2 men with guns suddenly stopped the car and hijacked it. They got into the taxi and took control. Anni and Shrien were kidnapped by these armed gunmen. The 2 men held Anni and Shrien victims against their will in the back seat of the taxi. The 2 hijackers drove the taxi to a remote, deserted area far outside of Cape Town City. They took Anni and Shrien to an isolated spot where there were no other people around. After keeping them prisoner for some time, the hijackers released Shrien without physically harming him. But Anni was not released. Her body was found dumped in that remote location. She had been murdered, shot dead with a single gunshot wound. So while Shrien was let go unharmed, his new wife Anni tragically lost her life. Shrien reported the hijacking and Anni's murder to the South African police immediately after being released. The police began an intensive hunt to find Anni's killers. Within days, the police arrested 3 suspects: taxi driver Zola Tongo and 2 other local men, Mziwamadoda Kwabe and Zolile Mngeni. At first, the 3 arrested men, the taxi driver Zola Tongo and the 2 hijackers, all denied that Anni's murder was planned. They claimed they never meant to kill anyone. They said Anni's death was just a terrible accident that happened during a robbery attempt gone wrong. But after the men were arrested and spoke to each other privately, their stories suddenly changed in a big way. After consulting together, they completely reversed their initial statements. Now the men accused Shrien Dewani of plotting the entire murder. They accused Shrien of masterminding a detailed plan to have Anni killed on their honeymoon and making it look accidental. So their accounts shifted from calling Anni's shooting an unplanned accident to now saying her new husband cleverly arranged the murder plot ahead of time. According to the updated accounts from the men, Shrien had planned out all the details of Anni's murder well in advance, before the couple even arrived in South Africa. The South African police chose to believe the men's revised accounts over their initial statements. They alleged Shrien was guilty of arranging Anni's contract killing. Based on the men's allegations, Shrien was officially charged with very serious crimes: conspiracy to commit murder, kidnapping, robbery, and obstructing justice. However, Shrien strongly and insistently continued to protest his total innocence. He boldly denied all the charges against him. Shrien said that he loved Anni very much and would never plan any attack on his new wife of just 2 weeks. Shrien claimed the arrested men were clearly lying about his involvement in order to get leniency for themselves from the police. According to Shrien, the men falsely accused him of masterminding the murder plot in order to reduce their own sentences and punishments for the crime. Shrien maintained he was completely innocent and had no role in his wife's death. There was a lengthy legal dispute over whether Shrien should be deported from the UK to South Africa to stand trial. Shrien fought deportation through the courts for years, but finally in April 2014, after a very long legal battle, Shrien lost his case. He was deported from the UK to South Africa against his wishes. When Shrien arrived in South Africa, he was immediately arrested by the police who were waiting for him. He was charged with Anni's murder and taken into custody as soon as he got off the plane. In South Africa, Shrien stood trial for allegedly arranged the honeymoon murder of his bride, Anni Dewani. The highly publicized trial began in October 2014. As the trial progressed, however, major problems emerged with the prosecution's case against Shrien. The taxi driver and other witnesses contradicted themselves repeatedly under cross-examination. They changed their stories numerous times on the witness stand. The judge harshly criticized the investigation and witnesses. She ruled the police probe was sloppy and the key witnesses were unreliable liars. In December 2014, the judge dismissed all charges against Shrien, citing lack of evidence. Shrien was cleared of all involvement in his wife's murder. Zola Tongo pleaded guilty to murder in December 2010 and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Mziwa Madoda Kwabe pleaded guilty to murder in August 2012 and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Solila Manjeni was tried and convicted of murder in November 2012 and was sentenced to life in prison. One hotel worker named Monde Mbalombo did confess to a role in the crime, but he was granted full immunity from prosecution in exchange for his evidence. However, it became clear during the trial that Mbalombo had lied under oath. Even though he clearly committed perjury, he was never charged or punished, so ultimately no one was successfully convicted for the murder of Anni Dewani. The police were criticized for doing a bad and careless investigation. They made many mistakes in how they handled the investigation. The physical and forensic evidence from the crime scene was not properly collected and stored by the police. The evidence was poorly handled, in a way that made it unusable. Forensic evidence like DNA, fingerprints, blood samples, and other physical proof. This made it difficult or impossible to analyze the evidence correctly to find the real criminals. Key witnesses changed their accounts numerous times, proving themselves to be dishonest liars. This left massive holes in the prosecution's case. Due to the failed prosecution, Anni's family never got definitive answers about who killed Anni or why she was targeted. Her murder remained an unsolved mystery. After Shrien was found not guilty and exonerated of Anni's murder, her family acknowledged that Shrien did not directly kill her himself. However, Anni's family was very hurt and upset to learn that Shrien had lied to them about living a secret life of having gay sex behind Anni's back. Anni's family demanded that Shrien apologize for deceiving them and cheating on their daughter Anni while they were married. But Shrien never admitted to any wrongdoing or issued an apology. The lurid case generated headlines worldwide. It also damaged South Africa's vital tourism industry by sparking safety concerns. But there was no just closure or accountability for Anni Dewani's grieving family. They could only scatter her ashes in her Swedish hometown and try to move on. The investigation and trial were both disastrous failures, leaving Anni's brutal honeymoon murder an unsolved crime. South African authorities faced harsh criticism for puzzling the case. Ultimately, the truth about why Anni Dewani was killed on her dream honeymoon remained a mystery and controversy. The reasons for her senseless murder were never determined,